What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here at JGilbo11, breaking down pitching for tonight's slate. Really strong pitching slate, a lot of top-end options. Kind of going to have to make some differences and some choices to make up top. In terms of extremely cheap options, there's nothing I'm really a huge fan of. But we have some mid-range options to work with. We do have one cheap option I'm willing to toss out and take a chance on. But we got Corey Kluber, we got Max Scherzer, Madison Bumgarner makes his return. Alex Wood's also on the hill, who's been really dominant this season. Needless to say, I'm trying to kind of break down where I'm going to be headed out of the top four. Corey Kluber gets the edge over Max Scherzer for me. Better ballpark. Obviously they're both on the road. Kluber's a huge minus 200 favorite. And you just look at this Oakland team that just strikes out a ton against right-handed pitching. About 25% of the time they're striking out against righties. Kluber struck out 10 over 6 innings last time out. You look at Kluber, he had the strikeout streak of 10 plus snapped, but strike out 8 over 5 innings against Detroit. Has yet to allow more than one earned run over his last 5 starts. And it just kind of gets another matchup here where he's very much in play. As for Max Scherzer, obviously he's been just as dominant this season, especially of late as well. 16% swinging strike rate, 35.5% strikeout rates, a little bit lower ground ball rates, about 10% lower, which scares me a little bit pitching in a ballpark that is pretty friendly for power. And that's kind of the one thing. You look at this Reds team too. Top 10 in WOBA, top 10 in ISO against righties, just a 20.8% strikeout rate. A's do have some decent power, as we saw last night. That's kind of one of the things that they do bring is a 197 ISO against righties. But they're 16th in WOBA, 25.6% strikeout rate. So give me Kluber over Scherzer tonight. I think Scherzer's a fine leverage play. I don't know if I'll have any exposure to him just at the price point. I just prefer Kluber, but obviously you can never really argue against Mad Max. Kind of the next one that we can kind of focus on is Alex Wood, Madison Bumgarner. Obviously, over this season, Alex Wood's been phenomenal. He's been healthy. 13.6% swinging strike rate, 31% strikeout rate. You also have that phenomenal 63% ground ball rate. That's just a tremendous elite combo to have. It's McCullers it's just those numbers where it's just you're going to strike out a ground ball about 90% of the time. So you can't argue against Wood here as well. On the expensive side, due to his numbers. Marlins offense, against lefties, they don't strike out a ton. They do have some right-handed bats to worry about, like Ozuna, Stanton, obviously. Martin Prado's back. But overall, this is an offense, 12th in WOBA, pretty low ISO. They don't strike out a ton. They're kind of a pretty good contact team. That's kind of why I'm leaning more towards Bumgarner, even though he's got the, obviously his first start back from injury. The failed dirt bike career, it didn't pan out for him, but, has had 2 rehab starts, at 90 pitch limit last time out, struggled in his first rehab, but tossed 6 scoreless innings, with 8 strikeouts. So I don't mind him. If you're not comfortable throwing Bumgarner, I completely understand. You can use Wood as a top-end option, or you can go down to a cheaper guy. Obviously, the strikeout upside's there when playing the Padres. They're dead last in WOBA against lefties, 26% strikeout rate. Vegas is expecting, vintage Bumgarner to come on and kind of dominate here in Petco, one of the better pitchers parks in baseball. Even though Posey made that ballpark look pretty small last night with that solo or with that shot to center field. But you look here, San Diego plus 36 dogs, under 3.5 run totals. So sign me up. I don't mind Bumgarner. You're getting him at a slight discount as well. 10.5 on DraftKings. I like the price tag. 11,000 on FanDuel. It just makes him more of a GPP play. But obviously Bumgarner I think is fine in cash games on DK. Kluber, obviously a cash game playable in all formats. And the GPP upside is there for really all 4 of those names. So then we kind of get to a game here where it features 2 really talented pitchers in the NL Central, Jimmy Nelson and Aaron Nola. Nelson's the bigger favorite. He's got Vegas on his side. Philadelphia's projected for under 4 runs. Nelson about a minus 160 favorite. Reasonable price across the industry. So if you don't want to pay for one of those guys, I think Nelson's a fine option as well to get some bats in. You look at Nelson, he's been really good this season, about a 50% ground ball rate, 26% strikeout rate, not walking guys, 6% walk rate. I talked about this a few starts ago against Baltimore where, Nelson's strikeout rate is leaning more towards left-handers. It's 30.8% strikeout rate against lefties, 21.7% against righties. Philadelphia has about 5-6-handed, lefties in this lineup, all of them switch hitters. In the pitcher spot as well, it gives Nelson pretty good upside here tonight. You just look at what Philly's doing. A couple guys, sure, Maikel Franco's heating up, but this team is just continuously rolling. That strikeout rate's really climbing. It's about 24% against righties, 28th in WOBA. I think Nelson's a safer option just because he's shown the ability to pitch in Miller Park, and actually he's been more efficient in Miller Park. So Nelson is cash game playable in terms of SP2. FanDuel, I see more of a GPP option just because I prefer paying up for a Kluber tonight in cash games. I won't be going down cheaper. But you just look at Nelson, I think he's a strong option in two pitcher sites, all formats. I don't mind it there. So on the other side, Aaron Nola, contrarian, GPP only for me tonight on both sites. Nola, about 10% swinging strike rate this year, 25% strikeout rate. Milwaukee's one of those boomer bust teams against righties. They're top 10 in ISO and WOBA against right-handers. 25% strikeout rate, though. That's kind of what you're looking at. Nola hasn't really faced Milwaukee. I believe he's faced them about one time from what I saw in terms of numbers, and had a decent start. But overall, Nola, he's been in the 8 or 9 strikeout range in 4 straight starts. He's had 6 strikeouts or more in 7 straight starts. Nola's a good pitcher. He's a good, strong kind of SP or number 2 in the rotation with a lot of upside. He'd probably be a number 2 on most other sites, but he's the number 1 there in Philly. But you're probably going to get him at lower ownership. His price tag isn't tremendously lower than some of the other guys. It's not a huge difference from Nelson, which I think is good because you get that pivot, but you're saving about $1,000 on DraftKings. It's only a couple hundred on FanDuel, but below 9K. Nola has that upside for me to use tonight. I like him in GPPs. He's a contrarian way to go. He'll be lower owned out of the guys that I mentioned. Given the fact that he's a road dog, people will be completely off of him. But I still think the upside's there. The strikeout rate's there. Good stuff against a team that does strike out a ton. In terms of a cheap option, going out to a big ballpark there, JC Ramirez. I'm not going to lie and sugarcoat that this is a safer play. But in terms of an SP2, on DraftKings, if you're looking to kind of pay up, I won't be looking his way on FanDuel, but if you're looking to kind of pay up at SP1 and kind of lower down as an SP2 and get some bats, I don't hate Ramirez. He's kind of a boomer bust guy. Same with his Rays offense. They strike out a lot as well, 25%. Ramirez, about a 10% swinging strike rate, but the strikeout rate is less than 20. Hard contact still an issue. June, he really did struggle after the first part of the year. Velocity looks okay though, but you look at this team. Ramirez did struggle against some of the top 10 teams in baseball in terms of offenses, but I think he's in play here. Vegas is kind of like in the Rays offense a little bit, which is somewhat concerning, but 5,700. He's a guy, he goes out there and gets you 12, 15 DK points. He's not completely killing you as an SP2, especially when you can get him with like Kluber, who, has a potential for 30 plus. So he's an option there. He does miss some bats. He's kind of one of those average guys. He's going to carry about a mid-4 to low-4 ERA the rest of the way and kind of be hit or miss. So I'm willing to take the chance in terms of an SP2. If you want to leave it for GPPs, that's fine. It's just a matter about what you like in your lineup. So that's going to wrap it up. You can head over to DaveFantasyCafe.com, check out the great tools and content.